Okay, now next up we're going to talk about categories. Now, what are categories in relation to your WordPress blog? What are they used for? How do they work? Well, a lot of people find categories to be maybe a little bit confusing at first, and maybe it's going to be a little bit tricky to kind of decide if you want to use categories and how you're going to go about, implementing them on your own blog and this sort of thing. Let me start off by saying this. Brand new blogs always have one default category called uncategorized. Now, the idea here is that as you begin writing more and more posts, what you can do is you can assign categories to your posts, and then what winds up happening is then this becomes a navigational aid for your visitors. Let me show you what I'm talking about here. So I'm on the live blog here, or the preview of my blog anyway, and I'm just going to scroll down a little bit into my posts. Now, categories usually show up in two different areas on your blog. Below your posts, so here's my working with color and flash post, and then below that I see posted in uncategorized. So that's the category that this post is currently organized or sorted under, if that makes sense. You can think of it in that way if you like. So I see the categories underneath the individual posts, as you can see here. And again, I only have uncategorized at this point, the default category. And then the other place that they show up, the other place that categories show up is over on the right-hand side inside the sidebar. So there's categories there on the right, and then we have uncategorized, and then in brackets I have the number of posts that are currently sorted underneath the uncategorized category, if that works for you. So in the real world, I might have different categories. I might have categories like Adobe Flash, and I might have vector art, and I might have auto repair, and I might have, I don't know, who the heck knows, any sorts of categories that I want to help sort and organize my different posts inside my blog. I hope that works for you. So the idea here is that each post that is assigned a category is then grouped with other posts in the same category. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say I come along here and I'm looking at my live blog and I go, well, I wonder what else is organized or labeled as this particular category. Well, if I click on this link, obviously it's a link there. If I click on it, then what happens is I'm taken to another view inside my blog. Across the top here, I now see archive for the uncategorized category. Now, again, in the real world, if you didn't use uncategorized, it would say archive for the Adobe Flash category or something like this. And then what I see now is all of the posts that are now sorted underneath the particular category that you and I are inside right now. That's the idea. I hope that makes sense there. Now, there's one more thing that I want to bounce off of you here. We can check out the RSS feed that each of our categories has. So every category that we go and create inside our WordPress blog is assigned its own individual RSS feed. Why? Well, maybe some visitors are only interested in the vector art category, or maybe other visitors are only interested in the auto mechanics category, something like this. So check this out. I'm going to use my address bar here inside my browser. Now, in the real world, your URL obviously would be http:// and then www.yourdomain.com, right? And then notice that now that we've clicked on a category, we now have this little extra bit on the end here. We have / cat equals 1. So each category, by the way, has its own unique ID number. So in this case, uncategorized has the default unique ID number of 1. Right? So make sure you have all of that in there. If you navigated back to the top level of your blog, make sure to type in all of that info there. But I'm just going to go back to uncategorized here. So I have the / cat equals 1. And then directly after that, what I'm going to type in is an ampersand or a question mark, and then feed equals RSS2, and then I'll just hit enter on my keyboard. And now I'm looking at the RSS feed for this particular category, this unique category. What I could then do is post this link on my website if people want to subscribe to this particular category's RSS feed. Very cool. All right, so I hope that makes sense for you. I'm going to navigate all the way back up to the top level of my blog just by clicking on the title there. And there you go. Hopefully this gives you a decent idea, a decent introduction in terms of getting started with categories in your WordPress blog. All right, now, actually going ahead and creating your own custom categories for your blog is super easy and super straightforward. There's a couple of different ways that you can go about creating your own categories. Let me show you sort of the, I guess you could say the official way to create categories here. I'm looking at my dashboard, obviously. What I'm going to do is I'll head over to the left-hand side and I'll expand the posts area, the posts module here, and then I'll look for categories there underneath posts. Go ahead and pop that guy open. And we're brought into the categories screen here. And sure enough, you can see uncategorized sitting there over on the right-hand side. So this sort of right-hand area here, the top right area anyway of the category screen, will list out for you all of your categories that you have inside your blog. Okay, so I want to go ahead and create a new category here with you, and my particular blog has a lot of Flash-related content. So I think what I'll do is I'll create a category called Flash. So inside the category name field, go ahead and type in category name. Of course, I'm using Flash here. And below that, it just says here, the name is used to identify the category almost everywhere. For example, under the blog post, which you and I just saw, or in the category widget. Now, the category widget is that category area that sits over in the sidebar of your blog's theme. Okay, perfect. So there's our category name. We pop them in there. And then below that, if I just scroll down a little bit, we have the category slug. And the slug is the URL version, the URL-friendly version of your category name. And normally it would just contain lowercase letters and numbers and hyphens and things like this, so no spaces or special characters. Now, you can use a category slug if you want. I usually don't bother, but you can pop something in there if you want. And then below that, we have what's referred to as the category parent. Now, what's interesting here is we can actually create structure for our categories. In other words, I might create a category called Flash, and I want Flash to appear underneath or within another category that I've created called Adobe. And maybe what I'll do is I'll show you how to do that in just a little while, but really the idea here is that you can actually create category structure if you want. You can read through this description here if you want kind of a better idea of what this is all about, but it finishes off here by saying that this is completely and totally optional. You don't have to use category structure if you don't want to. All right, below that we have a description for our category. You might want to type this in if you want. You can do this if you like. I don't really bother with it. But some themes may show your category description if you indeed have included a description for your particular category. Okay. Now that we're done here, I'm going to go ahead and click on Add Category down at the very bottom there. And not a whole lot happens, well, seemingly not a whole lot happens, until I scroll back up towards the top. And sure enough, I can see that Flash has been added to my list of categories. Fantastic. Now, what I'd like to do next is, I'd like to create a couple of other quick categories here with you. So I'm going to click back inside the category name field. We can create as many categories as we want, by the way. And I'm going to go and create another category called News and Updates. There we are. Okay, and again, I won't bother with a category slug, and I won't bother with a parent or a description, so I'm just going to scroll all the way down and click on Add Category. Once again, the new category is added to my list of categories there in the top right of the category screen. Okay, let's do one more together here. I'm going to do one called Shapes. Okay, wonderful. No slug, no structure, no description, add category. Okay, there we are. And there's our shapes category. So as you can see, creating your shapes is super easy. Actually applying your categories to your different posts, well, we'll take a look at that. And I also want to talk about that RSS feed as well, the RSS feed for your individual categories. And we also have another way to create categories as well, so we should take a look at that. Now that we've created some categories, let's actually go and apply our categories to a few of our posts. So what I'll do here is I'll head up to the posts module, the posts section there over on the left-hand side, and I'll click on Edit. And by the way, actually applying categories to your posts is super easy. So let's see here. I'm going to scroll down a little bit here. And I'll start with my particular post here, creating shapes in Flash. And I'll click on that guy's title to get him open inside the Edit view. And again, I'm a little jammed up here on my screen, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to scroll down a little bit, and on the right-hand side, I can see I have my categories module here. And right now, this particular post is categorized underneath the uncategorized category tag, if that makes any sense at all. Anyway, I'm going to uncheck that fella, and I'm going to change this guy to shapes. Why do I want to categorize this guy underneath shapes? Well, because this particular post deals with creating shapes inside Flash. So that's what I'm going to do there. But the other thing that I want to do as well is I also want to organize this particular post underneath the Flash category. So what's really cool here is you can apply just one category to a post, or you could apply multiple categories to a particular post. So in other words, if a visitor comes along and they click on the shapes category, then this particular post would show up along with perhaps one or two other posts. And then likewise, if they come along and click on the Flash category, well, this post as well as a few others would also show up. So anything that's organized underneath Flash or shapes, this post would be included in that group, if that works for you. Okay, I'm going to click on Update to save my changes here inside my post. And I think what I'll do is I'll go and apply a few more categories to some of the other posts that I've created here. So back over on the left-hand side, I'll click on Edit underneath Posts. This time I'll head into Understanding Flash's drawing models. And let's see, once again I'll scroll down on the right-hand side there. I'll uncheck Categorized. Make sure that guy's marked off there, and then I'll turn on Flash, but none of the other categories really seem to apply to this particular post. That's okay. And then I'll click Update. Now, of course, the better job you do at categorizing your posts, the better experience it's going to be for your visitor, right? Okay, back over to Posts on the left. Click on Edit, and let's do one more here, Working with Color inside Flash. Pop that guy open, and once again, I'll scroll down here, and I'll uncheck Uncategorized, and I will turn on Flash for this particular item here, and then we'll scroll up again, and I'll click on Update. Okay, I think we're looking good here. I'm anxious to show you the live blog, and I'm anxious to show you how this is actually going to work here. So what I'm going to do is I'll hold down Command here on the Mac, or Control on the Windows side, click on the Visit Site button up in the top left corner, and of course in this Preview tab that opens up, let's go and take a look at our live blog here. So there's the front page, or the front end of our blog, with all of our posts sequentially, one after another. But then if I look over in the right-hand menu there, there's Categories, and then we have Flash, and there's 3 posts there. There's Shapes, and there's 1 post, and then Uncategorized, we have 3 posts. Now, just a quick note, we had another category, didn't we? We had News and Updates, but we didn't actually apply that category to any of our posts. So since that category is presently not being used, it doesn't show up underneath the list of categories. Now the really cool thing here is I can click on Flash, and that will show me only the posts that have been categorized or organized underneath the Flash category. So here I can see Working with Color in Flash is posted in Flash. If I scroll down here, we have Understanding Flash's drawing models posted in Flash, once again, right there below the post. But then check this out. Creating Shapes in Flash is posted in Flash, but it's also posted underneath the Shapes category as well. So once again, if I click on Shapes here over on the right-hand side, then I'm only getting that one post, which is a part of the Shapes category. Does that make sense? So there you go. I hope that's working for you. Now there's lots more that I want to show you here, but I hope this is at least kind of giving you a fundamental idea of how categories work inside WordPress. What's cool about working with categories and creating new categories is you don't have to head into the category submenu to actually work with them and create them and all the rest of it. As a matter of fact, when I first started with WordPress, I didn't even know about the category submenu item. In other words, if I head over to the left here and pop open posts, I didn't even know about this screen right here. I didn't know that this is how you were supposed to create categories. Let me show you how I was going about creating categories, and this is normally how I do it, even though I know about this screen here. I do it inside the posts. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to head to Edit underneath Posts there on the left-hand side. And as an example here, I'm going to pop open Working with Color in Flash, one of the posts that I created here. And then just bear with me for a second here, because what I'm going to do is expand out my browser window just a little bit here, just so we can sort of get a better idea of what's happening here. Just give me a moment. There we are. I'm just going to move this over a bit. Okay, something like this. Now, what I was doing is I would write up a post on who the heck knows, whatever subject was at hand. And then I'd come over to the categories area here on the right-hand side, and I go, oh, cool, categories. And I'd see uncategorized, and I'd think, well, that's no good. I don't want to categorize my new post, my new Photoshop post, underneath uncategorized. I want to create a Photoshop category or something like this, right? And I noticed that there's this add new category link below the sort of the categories area here. So I clicked on it. And if I scroll down here, I noticed that it had a new category name field and then add. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. So I would type in whatever category name I want. For example, Photoshop or auto mechanics or, oh, I don't know, pasta recipes, whatever the case may be. Now, in my example here, the category that I'm going to create is called color. And below that, you can set that parent category if you wish. I'm going to click on Add, and then that adds the category. If I just scroll up here just a little bit, adds the category to my list of categories here inside the post, and it automatically marks it off for me, which is fantastic, right? So that's normally how I go about creating my own categories, right? Now, let me show you this here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to scroll up a little bit here, and I'll update my post. Let that update. There we are. And let me reset my browser window here so we can all see what's happening here. Now, just as a quick point of interest, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to the categories submenu item here over on the left-hand side. And sure enough, color has been added to my list of categories, right? Not only that, but it's also working on the live blog as well. So if I go and control click or command click on my view site link, and I go and open up that preview tab, there's my working with color and Flash posted in color and Flash as well. And there's color over on the right-hand side underneath the categories heading there as well. So there you go. Whichever way you want to go about creating your categories, it all leads to the same result. So whatever makes the most sense to you, I suppose. So I hope this idea of categories is really making sense for you, and I hope it's really proving useful for you as you're building your blog here. Something else that I want to address is something that I really started off showing you earlier, which was your categories RSS feed, or in other words, the URL for a particular category's RSS feed. So how do you do that? Well, if you recall, I had typed a URL into my browser window, and that gave me the RSS feed for that uncategorized category, the default category that we have inside our blog. And I made mention, you might not remember this, but I made mention of a category's ID number. And I want to show you how you can figure out a category's ID number. So I find myself here inside the categories screen, so make sure you expand posts there if necessary and click on categories. And the example that I'm going to show you here is with my Flash category, because I have a few posts categorized underneath Flash. What happens here is when you hover over top of any of your categories here, as is the case with a lot of the different screens that we see here in the WordPress admin area, is we get some additional links, edit and quick edit and delete, right? So you can delete your categories and you can edit them if you want to change them and so on. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on edit. Go ahead and do the same thing here. And when I arrive inside the edit category screen, you'll see there's no mention at all of the RSS feeds or the ID number for the category, this sort of thing. All we get is the category name, the slug, which, don't forget, you and I left blank, so WordPress dumps the slug in by default if we leave it blank there. The category parent, and the description. That's really it, right? Well, this is great if we want to come in and change the name of a category or apply a parent category or something like this, but it's really not helping us to determine the ID number for our particular category, the Flash category. So you know what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to click on Update Category, even though we didn't make any changes here. And let me show you a neat trick for figuring out the ID number for a particular category. I'm going to do it on our live blog. So give this a try. As always, I'm going to hold down Control or Command and click on Visit Site there in the top left. Of course, that takes me to the live blog. And then over inside my list of categories, I'm going to click on the category whose RSS URL I want to determine, which is Flash, right? That's the one we're talking about. And of course, all of the posts underneath the Flash category show up inside the browser, but it's really not what's inside the browser window that I'm interested in. It's what's inside the browser address field that I'm interested in. Notice it says !cat equals and then a number. That's our category ID, or our category number. Okay, awesome stuff. So, knowing this, we can now figure out the URL for our RSS feed. So check this out. So the RSS URL for this particular Flash category is going to be the domain name, http:// whatever it is .com. Again, I have this localhost thing running. !cat equals the ID number, and then ampersand and symbol, feed equals, and then RSS2. If I hit enter here on my keyboard, that gives me the RSS feed now for that particular category, the Flash category. So what I can do now is I might decide to create a graphic with a hyperlink attached to that graphic that would allow users to subscribe to this particular category's RSS feed. Or maybe I want to send it out in an email or something like this. But that's the URL that I'm after for this particular category's RSS feed. Pretty cool. Let me take just a quick moment and show you how to work with those parent categories in the event that you want to create a structure for your categories. And I'm going to give you just a real quick down and dirty example, but I'm sure it'll be enough to get you going on this idea of creating this sort of category structure, I guess you could call it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to head down to the posts area inside the left-hand menu there, and then I'll pop open categories. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and create a brand new category. I'm going to create a category called Adobe. I won't bother setting a slug or a parent or a description. I'll just click on Add Category. Okay, that's really all there is to it. If I scroll up towards the top, there's my new category added to the group of categories on the right-hand side. And now what I want to do is I want to start creating some structures. So what I want to do is I want to take my Flash category and make it a child of the Adobe category. So in other words, Adobe is going to be the parent category of Flash, right? So I'll simply edit the Flash category. I'll click on Edit here. That brings me into the Edit Category screen, of course. And for Category Parent, I'm simply going to drop down this menu and choose the appropriate parent category that I want to use, which of course is Adobe. So go ahead and choose that. Scroll down to the bottom here. Let's click on Update Category. All right, now what does this actually mean? What actually happens here? Well, notice the reordering that's happened here on the right-hand side, and Flash now has a sort of a horizontal dash beside it there, indicating that it's now organized underneath Adobe. But let's see how this actually plays out on our live blog. So let's go and take a look at the live site here. Control or Command click on Live Site there, and let's check this out. In terms of functionality, for your actual blog, it doesn't really make much of a difference, right? But what does happen is over inside the categories area on the right-hand side, we now have Adobe, and then Flash now appears as a sub-item underneath Adobe. So that's really the idea here. And you can continue organizing your categories if you want. You can create all kinds of different category groups if you want to call them that. But that's really the idea here. So you can make use of this on your blog if you want, but on the blogs that I run, I don't really bother with it. But again, in case you're interested, that's how you pull it off. During our time together, we've seen on a number of occasions that the default category that gets created for us here in WordPress is a category called uncategorized, which is kind of uninspiring, isn't it? Well, what we can do here is we can go and change WordPress's default category. So in other words, as soon as we go and create a brand new post, if we don't set a category for it, well, a category is going to be applied to it anyway, and it's the category that's been selected by us as the default category. Let's see how all this works. Well, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and create a brand new post. I'm going to head underneath the posts category there on the left-hand side, and then I'm going to click on Add New. that add new link. And I'm not actually going to go and create a brand new post, but what I do want to show you is that if I scroll down here, there's that uncategorized. And if I start adding content in here, what happens is uncategorized is going to get checked for us, and it's going to get used as the default category for the post. Now, that's the default. That's the way that it works, right? But we can, of course, go and change that if we want. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to scroll all the way down towards the bottom left, expand the settings menu, and then what I'd like you to do is open up the writing settings. All right, wonderful. Now you may remember this from earlier. We have the default post category, uncategorized. That's what I want to change. So rather than uncategorized being used as the default for my new posts, instead maybe I want to use Flash if it's a Flash blog I'm working on, or myself, I think I mentioned this earlier, I usually use news and updates. So if I forget to apply a category for my new blog posts, well, news and updates is going to be the default for me, right? So that's really all there is to it. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom here and I'll click on Save Changes. And then I think what I'll do here, just to sort of show you exactly how this is going to work, is I'll go and create another new post here. So underneath Posts, Add New. And let's see here. Give me a moment. I'm going to expand out my browser window so we can get a better look at our editor here. And let's see. This is going to be really quick and simple. I'll call this Just a Quick Test with some plain text. How's that? Okay. Again, just nice and down and dirty here for us. I'll collapse down my browser, scroll down just a little bit. No category is marked, right? All right, I'm going to go and publish this post. Wait for WordPress to catch up here. There we are. Now, let's see. I'm going to scroll down here a little bit. And sure enough, news and updates is marked off by default. I didn't check that. WordPress checked it for me. And if I go and visit my live site, there's that Just a Quick Test. And sure enough, posted in news and updates. So there you go. There's setting up your default category for your blog. In addition to working with categories, you can also apply keywords to your posts and key phrases, which are called tags here in WordPress. And this kind of ties a little bit into search engine optimization, SEO. Let me show you how this is going to work. I can actually apply individual tags to my posts, and that's yet another way for visitors to sort through my different posts. And very much like categories, tags also have an RSS feed, which I'll talk about in just a moment. So let's see if we can get this happening here. I'm going to head down into posts. I'll pop open the posts area there on the left-hand side. And, oh, by the way, this is just a quick test. Let's get rid of that guy. Let's trash him. I actually forgot about that guy. Anyway, let's head down to working with color in Flash. I'll click on this fella here. And then if I scroll down just a little bit, I'm all kind of scrunched up in here, but hopefully you can see this here. We have, just above categories, we have post tags. And we have to separate our tags with commas, right? So I can click in here, and maybe I'll do something like this. I'll do Jeff Blake, comma, space, Flash, comma, space, color, comma, space. I'm capitalizing everything, but you don't have to. Maybe Adobe, comma, space. And how about animation? And I'll click on add. Okay, great. So there's all of the tags that have just been added to this particular post. Let's update our post. Okay, fantastic. I'm going to head back over to the left, back underneath posts, and I'll click on edit once again, because I want to go and throw in some additional tags on some of my other posts. So we have understanding Flash's drawing models. So I'll click on that fella there. And as far as the tags go for this post, let's see here. Well, I'll throw my name in here again, Jeff Blake, and I'll throw in Adobe and Flash, drawing, vector, and animation. How's that? And I'll click on add here. Let's do one more post. Let's update this fella here. And then I'll head back over to the left and click on edit. And then let's do creating shapes in Flash. Okay, so post tags for this one. Myself, Jeff Blake, shapes, vector, flash, and animation. How's that? Okay, let's add those guys in and then update our post. Okay, let's see how this actually plays out now on our live blog. So I'll hold down Controller Command and I'll click on Visit Site there in the top left, as always. All right, let's see what we have here. Okay, the tags show up below your posts. So you can see there, tags, there's all of the tags that I've applied to this particular post inside the blog, right? Understanding Flash's drawing models. There's all of the tags that I added to that particular post. And of course, the creating shapes in Flash post as well. There's all of the tags for that fella as well. So that's the idea here. That's really how it all works. Now, what I can do here is I can click on these individual tags very similar to the categories. For example, I'll click on Adobe, for example, and posts tagged as Adobe there, right across the top. If I scroll down, there's my working with color. Understanding Flash's drawing models. Yeah, looks like it's just the two there. So those are my Adobe tagged posts. Or maybe I could click on Flash and let's see what we have here. There's the working with color, the drawing models, and our shapes in Flash. That's really the idea there. Pretty cool stuff. I hope you like that there. Now let me show you very quickly here how we can determine the RSS feed for our tags that we've used here inside our WordPress blog. And you can use an unlimited number of tags. It's a little bit more flexible than categories. You can have an unlimited number of categories, of course, but the more categories you have, the longer this list is going to get there on the right-hand side. So to determine your RSS feed for a particular tag, what we would do up inside the address bars, we'd have the URL for our blog, / tag equals, and then your tag name, whatever that tag name may be, and then we would follow that by an ampersand, an and symbol, and then feed equals RSS2. Hit enter. There's the RSS feed for the Flash tag. How do you like that? Pretty cool stuff. All right, I hope you like that. All right, I'm going to show you one more quick thing related to working with your tags. I'm going to close out of this extra browser tab that I have here. I want to go all the way back to my WordPress backend admin area here. Over on the left-hand side, underneath posts, we have post tags. Go ahead and click on that fella. And that'll bring you into your tags screen, which kind of looks similar to the categories screen. On the right-hand side here, we have all of our tags that we've added into our blog here. And we can always add in more tags if we want. This is another way to add in more tags. You can add in your tags here, or you can do it in the posts. Usually I just do it in the posts here. But I wanted to mention as well this fella right here. You may have seen something like this before in your travels. This is what's referred to as a tag cloud. And how a tag cloud works is the more times a particular tag is used, the larger the text appears inside a tag cloud. So in other words, I've used Jeff Blake more often than I've used the shapes tag. That's the idea. And there's all sorts of widgets and WordPress plugins that allow you to include this tag cloud inside the sidebar of your WordPress blog theme.